This episode is really close to my heart as people often ask me a very simple question. How do you become a headhunter? Where do headhunters actually come from? And it's a very fair question because unlike CEOs, CFOs, CHROs, there is no defined path for this profession. No university degree, no certifications, and no apprenticeship. Yet, headhunters sit at some of the most consequential decision points, shaping industry careers, succession outcomes, and board decisions. So today, I want to demystify this, not from theory, but from my own lived reality. Let me start with the core truth. Headhunters don't come from one place. There is no ideal starting point. What matters far more is how people evolve once they enter search. In my experience, most headhunters come from three backgrounds. Each background brings real strengths and very real blind spots. The first group comes from industry. Now, these are former CEOs, CXOs, business unit heads, functional leaders, CHROs, finance, sales. They can come from anywhere. What this cohort brings to the table, they bring deep operating context. They understand what it means to run a business and not just advise it. Third, how decisions are actually made under pressure. And fourth, the trade-offs leaders live with every day. When engaging with headhunters who come from these backgrounds, senior candidates often feel understood rather than evaluated. Conversations go deeper and faster. And because there is a shared lived experience, they are particularly strong when the search requires judgment and not just checklists. Now let's understand what this cohort grapples with. The struggle is often around process and detachment. First, many find it difficult to stay neutral when they have strong opinions. Respecting the slower, disciplined pace of search. Third, separating their past identity from their current role. Hence, some assume credibility comes automatically. But in search, interestingly, trust has to be earned again and again with every client and with every candidate. Those who succeed learn that influence in search comes from listening and not from authority. The second cohort comes from consulting and professional services, like former management consultants, strategy professionals coming from Big Four, and boutique advisory backgrounds. What this cohort brings to a table is very unique. They bring structure and clarity. They are excellent at breaking down complex, ambiguous mandates. Third, they ask the right diagnostic questions right up front. And fourth, managing boards, promoters, and multiple stakeholders simultaneously, because that's what they've been doing. They often help clients articulate what they really need, not just what they think they want. In complex, multi-country, or PE-backed searches, this is a huge advantage. Now let's understand what this cohort grapples with. Their challenge is usually around human nuances. They can struggle with sitting in ambiguity without trying to solve too quickly, building emotional trust with the candidates and clients alike, recognizing that careers are not linear problems. Search is not only about insights, it's about timing, fear, aspiration, and risk. The best consultants who transition into search learn that empathy is as important as intellect. Now, let's talk about the last cohort or the last group, which are career headhunters who have predominantly only worked in headhunting firms, recruitment firms, and talent acquisition teams. This is actually the most common starting point globally. Let's discuss what this cohort brings to the table. By virtue of being in the industry for so long, they develop a highly evolved headhunter's intuition. Second, they bring market intelligence and reach. Third, they often know who is performing, who is plateauing, and who is restless. Fourth, compensation realities across sectors. And lastly, how talent market is actually behaving and not how we wish they would. They are fast, well-networked, and highly aware of patterns across industries. This gives them a real advantage in executive search. Now let's understand what this cohort would grapple with. The hardest transition for this group is mindset. They must unlearn speed is not a measure of success. 2. Volume as a proxy for quality. Third, pleasing the clients at all costs. Those who make that shift become trusted advisors. Those who don't remain transactional intermediaries. Executive search requires judgment, restraint, and the courage to challenge. Here's something rarely said openly. Great headhunters not shaped by background. They're shaped by failures. Most strong search partners have misread a mandate early in their careers. Second, lost a candidate they were deeply invested in. Thirdly, underestimated internal dynamics and paid the price for overpromising. Judgment in this profession is earned the hard way through mistakes, reflection, and accountability. At senior levels, pedigree fades quickly. What truly separates a great headhunter is the courage to ask clients questions they don't want to answer, the discipline to slow a search down when needed, and deep respect for the personal and professional risk of candidates. Long-term reputation, thinking over short-term wins. Great headhunters don't optimize for closures. They optimize for outcomes, trust, and credibility. If you are a board member or a promoter, you're not hiring access. You're hiring judgment and you're hiring discretion. If you're a senior leader, you're not being placed. You're being guided through a career inflection point. So where do headhunters come from? They come from industry, they come from consulting, and they come from executive search firms. But the best ones are shaped somewhere else entirely. They are shaped at the intersection of experience, failure, judgment, and restraint. And that's what makes executive search less about hiring and far more about stewarding leadership decisions. Signing off, thank you very much, Rajesh Pundir.